We are in our States of Matter close reader on page 18. Please open up your close reader and follow along. We will be underlining key details and looking at the main idea of the sections as we go. So this is changing matter.
Extended Read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
Changing Matter by J. Brewster. Introduction. Matter is anything that takes up space. Everything in the world is made of matter. There are three kinds of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. All matter has properties such as a size and a shape. Some properties can change. In addition, one kind of matter can sometimes change into another kind of matter. A kind of matter is also called a state of matter.
Solid, liquid, gas.
Hold up a glass that has liquid in it. You are holding all three kinds of matter. The glass itself is an example of solid matter. The drink is an example of liquid matter. The space in the glass that is not filled with water is filled with air. Air is a mixture of gases and is therefore an example of gas matter.
Okay, so this text has a ton of really good information in it. It gives us a definition here. It's always a good thing to underline. It's going to be important if they want you to know what it means. So matter's anything that takes up space. Everything in the world is made of matter. Everything. It's hard to fathom. And then the three kinds, we've learned this in science, are solid, liquid, and gas. And then we've also learned this from our science text, that all matter has properties like size and shape, and some properties can change. Okay, and then we also call a kind of matter a state of matter, which we talked about in our small reading groups last week. It says, hold up a glass that has liquid in it. You're holding up all three kinds of matter. They said that the actual glass itself is the solid, the orange juice is the liquid, and the air up here is the gas, right? Because there's different gases that make up air. So therefore, it's an example. Go ahead and label your cup on page 19 as well. And let's keep going. That was a good background introduction into what matter is. And now we're going to get more into how matter can change.
How can matter change size? Every solid, liquid, or gas has a certain size. You can change the size of matter. Here is one example. Suppose you have a carrot. A carrot is a solid piece of matter. You can change the size of the carrot by asking an adult to help you cut it into several small pieces or by shredding it. You can change the size of a liquid too. Take a glass with water and pour half into another glass. You have just as much water as you did before, but there is less of it in the first glass than there was before. You have changed the size of the liquid by dividing it. How can...
Okay, let's stop there for just a minute. So remember to definitely look at our headings because those help to guide what we're about to read. And this one was about how matter changes size. And so it talks about how we can change the size by cutting or shredding. And then you can also change size by pouring or dividing it into multiple places. So that's how we can change the size of a piece of matter. mostly we've got solid and liquid there. You can also change it by heating it, right? If you melt it, it becomes a little bit, actually frozen water expands, so when you melt it, it would become a little bit smaller. So now let's talk about how matter can change shape.
Matter change shape. Shape is another property of matter that can be changed. Suppose you still have a glass with water in it. Get a bowl and pour the water into the bowl. By transferring the water from one container to another, you have changed its shape.
So we talked a lot about this in our Earth's Water small group text last week. But that liquid takes the shape of whatever container it's in. So one way to change the shape of a liquid is to transfer it from one container to another.
Gas can change its shape too. How can we tell if it can if we are not able to see gas? Put a straw into a glass of milk and blow air into the straw. You will see bubbles moving around in the milk. Those bubbles are filled with air. Remember, air is a mixture of gases. By blowing into the milk, you made the gases in the glass move and change shape.
Okay, let's pause there again. So gas can change its shape too by blowing air because the bubbles are filled with air. Another way that you can do that is by blowing up a balloon. So you're transferring that air into a confined space, and the balloon stretches and holds that air in. So you're changing the shape of the air as well, holding it as the shape of a balloon. So that's another way that we can change shape as well. So now we're going to look at changing states of matter with temperature. And when we heat or cool things, we can change things from a liquid to a solid to a liquid to a gas, and so on, just by changing the temperature. It can go into a completely new state of matter. So let's listen in on that.
Changing states of matter. When matter undergoes a severe change in temperature, it can change from one state of matter into another. Water can exist in all three states of matter. When water is very cold, it freezes and becomes ice. Frozen water, or ice, is solid matter that can have different shapes. For instance, it can be shaped like an icicle or an ice cube. Ice can change in size too. You can chip away at a block of ice to turn it into smaller pieces of ice.
Okay, so change in temperature can change from one state of matter into another one. Again, it could be through making it colder, like freezing water to become ice. And then it talks about shapes as well, or making it, again, changing the size and shape of the solid. But let's look at how else we can change states of matter.
For ice to change from a solid back into a liquid, it needs to be heated up. The ice will melt and it will be flowing water again. How can liquid water be transformed into a gas? It needs to be heated. For example, when water in a pot on the stove starts to boil, it starts to bubble. Steam starts to rise from the pot. Steam is liquid water that has turned into a gas.
Okay, so we learned that you can freeze it by changing the temperature to make it colder. And then you can also heat it to take it from a solid to a liquid. So both ways help to change one state of matter into another state of matter. Same thing here, when you heat a liquid, it can become a gas, like in the steam that you see here. So let's go ahead and listen to our conclusion.
Conclusion. There are 3 different kinds of matter that make up our world. You can see solid and liquid matter everywhere. Even though you cannot see most kinds of gas matter, they are there too. All matter has properties, including size and shape. You can change some properties of matter. Some matter can even change from one kind of matter into another.
Everything in the world is matter, even you.
All right, so you are going to go in and complete your response for changing matter. Be sure to keep your text out because you will need it to look for some text evidence when answering your questions.